I've been trying to track down some CR1620 batteries for my car's remote for about 6 months now, with no luck. I'm afraid if I don't find something soon, the batteries on my spare remote will also run out and I'll have to resort to using the key. Instead, I've decided I'm going to modify my remote to either accept another size coin cell, if not multiple sizes. To see how I do this, stay tuned. Have you ever thought about why is it, whenever you get a new device that requires coin cell batteries, it seems to use a size that you don't already have spares of at home? Between remotes for 2 cars, the security gate of my building, a bicycle rear light that hangs from my backpack, and a tracking device, I have 5 different coin cells that I keep spares of. My plan for this modification is to add a compartment to the outside of the remote that will be minimal in size but allow me to use multiple sizes of coin cells. I'm still in the design phase of this idea, so let's get started with that. The first thing I need to do is find out what options I have for battery sizes. The CR1620 is a 3-volt battery, so that's my starting point. After some research, I found the CR2032 to be the best option for my needs as far as availability and capacity. Where the CR1620 I currently use only has a 75 mAh capacity, the CR2032 has a 225 mAh capacity. Also, of the 5 stores I visited within 2 miles of my home, all of them had the CR2032 on display. Here you can see the difference in size of the old and new battery, where the smaller one is the old battery I'm trying to replace. There are compartments for sale on Amazon that look very well made, but I'm going to try this compartment from an old PC motherboard. It's a nice thin design that I was hoping for, so I'll see if I can combine it with the remote and make it my new power source. Desoldering the compartment from the motherboard isn't too hard. It's nice that the pins sticking out of the compartment can be used for the positive and negative wire leads that will run into the remote. Most of the work for this mod will be for connecting those wires inside of the remote. In the remote, the positive side of the coin cell would face downward, which contacts the terminal along the side of the compartment. The cover of the remote contains the circuitry to operate the remote, as well as the negative terminal that contacts the battery. Off to the side of the negative terminal are 2 bumps that are where the positive terminal reconnects to the circuit board. I'm drilling 2 holes to accommodate the negative and positive wire leads running from the external battery compartment. I know I can solder the positive lead to the terminal along the side, but I'm still not sure how I want to handle the negative lead just yet. I'm going to tin the ends of both wires, which makes it easier to work with. I didn't get video of me soldering the wire to the compartment, but this here is the completed compartment with the wire leads already soldered in place. To confirm the battery compartment will work correctly, I measured the voltage to the leads and got 3 volts, which is the correct voltage of the battery. Now that I know the battery compartment works correctly, I'm going to mount the compartment to the outside of the remote next to where I drilled the holes. I'll let this dry for a day before running the wires into the remote. Now that the glue is dry, I'll run the wires into the remote and cover where they are soldered with more glue. I didn't do this in the last step because I felt it would get too messy. I'll let this dry, but since it's not structural, 12 hours should be enough drying time. I've gone ahead and soldered the positive wire to the positive terminal in the remote. I pulled the terminal out of the remote for easier access, but now I have to put it back in. It's a little harder with the wire attached, but I'll try twirling the wire into a loop, then mounting the terminal in place. I had originally planned to solder the negative wire lead to some kind of copper piece that could contact the terminals on the circuit board. After some thought, I think I came up with a better idea that will save me time and I think will still be a sufficient solution. Instead, I'm going to coil the negative wire lead up and glue it in place with the thin part of the wire protruding upwards where it can contact the negative circuit board terminals on the other half of the remote. So the coiled wires I glued in the remote are dry, and I bent the negative lead in such a way that when the other half of the remote is attached, it makes contact with the center of the negative terminal. I'll put the remote back together and see if it's working. The new remote looks a bit bulky, but I'm okay with that. I'm just glad I finally have a battery for the remote again. Testing is pretty simple. The car lights should flash when I unlock the doors. They should flash and sound the horn when I lock the door, and that's it. There is an alarm button, but I've never used it, and I don't want to test that right now, but otherwise, the remote is working. I'm happy with these results. My design may not be the mod you would want to do to your car remote, but you could always modify the design to your taste. After all, this is a DIY channel. I hope you've learned something useful today. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. That's all I have for now, and I'll catch you in the next video.